So, what can we all do to stay healthy in this rather sick society? As Christianity said, there's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So, seemingly, actually, to some extent, some degree of illness is very much warranted because we're living in an absolute mess, an absolute shit show of a society in which we are psychologically enslaved to an insane socio-economic model, and of course, we are therefore consuming toxins left, right, and centre as this sort of form of hedonism or escapism. And a Friday, Saturday night, TGI Friday, Monday blues, all that kind of stuff. So we reach for the alcohol, we reach for the cigarettes, we reach for any recreational drug we can get our hands on, including largely to some extent sugar and junk food and denatured, inorganic GMO food, all this kind of stuff, which is very much like bad mood food. We're reaching for these substances because we are reaching for a higher state of consciousness that can't really be obtained through these substances. At least, on a if you're thinking about longevity, if you want to sort of remain at a higher state of awareness, we need to culture and cultivate permanent traits as opposed to transient or temporary states. And that's what's really going to happen, really through these binges that we're on. So all we have to do simply is to avoid toxins, to avoid being ill. It's a very simple thing, but it's become something that we're blindsided to because we were born into this society. It's very much difficult for us to see outside of it. And so what I realized when I turned 30 and had my spiritual awakening, I immediately stopped eating denatured junk food. And I actually happened to stop eating meat as well. Although I think you can eat meat and not necessarily get ill. But I think the most important thing for us to do is to stop drinking alcohol and to stop reaching for the cigarettes, so on and so forth. Because how many people are actually engaging in that activity? How many pubs are there in our towns and cities? It's become so normalized, and then we sort of scratch our heads and we get told that these illnesses, all the colds and the coughs and the flu-like symptoms, all this kind of stuff, is caused by some sort of hypothetical, still to this day, never been proven to exist, monster, I'll call it, but of course I'll flash up the image of what I actually mean. And this is a great opportunity for the psychopaths of the world, because they can just frame and reframe our illness and say that it's caused by something, and then based on that they can bring about this whole fake false paradigm of measures and mandates and all type of things that they can it's pretty much conjure up that out of their own asses to get us to be controlled and for us to sort of acquiesce to these changes in society that they've been rolling out. And even now it's like people don't want to talk about it because it's just a thing of the past. Without this becoming too much of a tangent, because I'll just get censored if I start talking about this stuff, really just wanted to say, try this out for yourself. Abstain from, excessive carbs. Don't get yourself into a carb coma. Reach for organic whole foods. I mean, the foods that have been produced by nature or God or the universe, which is actually yourself. These are the things that we need to trust, right? Because this is the force that's actually created our organism, and it's really much dependent on these natural vibrations, not these synthetic artificialities that have been created by these insane, almost like farmers like Bill Gates, right? He's buying all the land, isn't he? And what's going to happen, if psychopaths like this, it's just a communism, United States of the world situation that's being created. And we need to raise our awareness of what's really taking place here, which is an agenda to sicken us and therefore profit from our sickness, and to create all sorts of controlling measures around the world, all countries bar none, eventually, in which we are absolutely fundamentally controlled on many levels. So I think the first thing we want to be is healthy. Like as Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Right? It couldn't be any more simple, but it's just become so normalized because our social life is dependent on largely these substances that we're just taking because we feel like we need. I mean, I went to an ecstatic dancing last night, and that was quite liberating. No alcohol required for you to just go mental and dance like no one's watching. And you can find that you could quite quickly get high on your own supply. And I think this is the sort of society that we need to start creating, where we start cultivating our own innate spiritual powers and begin to experience more satchitananda, bliss, consciousness, awareness, the alleviation of anxiety and depression and all this kind of stuff can easily be done when we liberate ourselves from compulsory labour for survival. That's, of course, what New Earth is all about. So you can check out newearth.land if you're interested in learning more about this. Post-capitalist movement, decommodification of shelter, energy, food and water. Make those things basic human rights. Is what the government should have been doing all along, but never will. Why? Because they're all psychopaths or just fools. So we need to sort of like detach ourselves from this Roman circus of entertainment and this political charade. It's all nonsense. Once we can see that we are individuals in a collective, we can reconcile that by simply providing for ourselves shelter, energy, food and water from the design of these new co-housing environments that will be provided to us, free of charge. And, you can figure out on newearth.land exactly how we can go about that. And if you want to be part of it, do join along, do subscribe. Do try and get this channel off the ground. Like, I'm talking virtually to no one. I've been doing that for a while, but before that I was censored, like I say, for talking about various things that, as they say, like, make the lie big, make it simple, keep saying it, and eventually they'll believe it. This was like a Nazi maxim. The bigger the lie, the more they believe it. Goebbels and Hitler. This is what they do. They lie. They deceive us. And of course, right now they're doing it in a very, unfortunately, evil but articulate way. So we need to know our enemy, and we need to firstly start reaching for the natural, healthy foods that are really all around us. It might cost a little bit more, and perhaps you put some space in your garden to start growing some organic whole foods. Anyway, just avoid toxins and you'll find very quickly that you will no longer catch disease, because we don't catch disease, we build it, right? The germ theory is incorrect, which was actually peddled by Louis Pasteur, who admitted himself that Antoine Béchamp behind the train theory is correct. It's the train theory, okay? The microbe is not the primary causative agent of disease. The terrain, which precedes the sort of creation or mutation of these microbes, is ultimately the primary causative agent of disease, and we can control that. So we can control the vibration and the immune system by making more conscious decisions. Every time you eat something, you're either fighting or feeding disease, and I'll leave you on that. So hopefully we can start to create a wiser, a more conscious society, and have a great weekend. I'll see you in the next video.